When I meet with clients, I always feel it's helpful to sit down and go over the discussion of how I'm going to build the case, how I'm going to develop the case as it goes on, some of the different steps involved. Law is somewhat art, somewhat science, but as far as the art part, like a potter's wheel, they take a piece of clay and they shape it into something that their craftsmanship and experience is going to allow them to be able to complete and make, and hopefully be able to have a commodity to be able to sell. Law is kind of the same thing. I'm using my experience, my skills, and I'm taking, instead of clay, I'm taking evidence. So as the case builds up, I'm shaping and making corrections along the way until ultimately I get to a finished product. What that simply means is the different steps of the case. Communication is key and problem solving is key with the client's case.
Law Talk. I'm your host, Stevie Fernandez, along with Lloyd, Benedict. Thanks so much for sticking around with us and continuing with us throughout this process of educating everyone on law.
My honor, Stevie. Thank you again.
I thought it'd be a good time, since we've had you on the show for a little while, to get to know you a little bit more. You know, like why you became a lawyer, where you came from, you know, and what makes a lawyer want to do what they want to do to begin with. Well, where did you grow up?
You know, I grew up really in Oklahoma City area, Moore, and from there I graduated high school, started attending University of Oklahoma, and then from there there's several colleges and taken my career through different paths, but at some point I'd moved down to Dallas for just a few years, and I just happened to be watching TV and I saw a commercial about paralegal school, and I thought, well, that's really interesting, and it just kind of piqued my interest. I checked into it and returned back to Oklahoma at that point, and I enrolled into a program, and that's where it really kind of started.
So that is what brought you back to Oklahoma then?
Yes.
Now, something you've shared with me before, and I hope you don't mind sharing it with us here, is the cigarettes in your mom's story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a long story. It's that's really what brought us to the United States. And
they didn't have cigarettes anywhere else, and so she came to the States to find them.
Yeah, so on the search for a good smoke. But it was we were in Montreal at the time. And my mom, who smoked for a temporary period in her life, had bought this one brand. I think it was Peter Jackson or something like that.
Okay.
And they had a contest going, kind of like Willy Wonka, and they had a little certificate inside the cigarettes. And so she opened it up, and she had been the gold ticket winner for $1,000. This is way back then. $1,000 was a lot of money. And she had family in the United States. Her brother was stationed at Altus Air Force Base. She had another brother in Los Angeles. Her intention was we moved the family down to California. And on the way to California, she wanted to stop and visit her brother in Altus. So we stopped in Oklahoma, and it was my uncle who talked my dad into staying in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow. So
it kind of took off from there, yeah.
That's awesome. So what was it, you said that you saw some class or something. Had you ever thought about being an attorney before you saw that? You maybe saw like some TV show, I forget who was probably some of the good characters on TV that were attorneys at that.
Well, you always got the Perry Masons of the world and characters like that. But I don't really think that I really thought of it in those terms. I never really said, okay, I want to be a lawyer when I was a kid or anything like that. It was more of a process I kind of fell into. I really had the passion of helping people. My dad was a truck driver he retired after 45 years of truck driving. And he's always been the guy that's always stood up for the little guy. And we've always been that mentality. We don't like bullies. We always speak our minds. And we're going to try to help people that we can. And that's just the way I was raised. It was probably sometime, it was kind of funny how I got a job in a law firm when I was a paralegal. I was required to be an intern. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I don't know anybody. I don't know any lawyers, so how am I going to do this? So I opened the phone book, and of course, A through Z in attorneys, it's quite a lot of attorneys right there. So I just started making phone calls. Hey, do you need any help? I'm trying to be a intern for a paralegal, looking for a job. By the time I got to L, I got a job.
All right.
And I started a law firm in Oklahoma City, and I worked for them for about 6 years. And that's really where I got my experience of negotiations and helping people out. Working at this law firm, it was a personal injury law firm, workers' comp law firm, and I started off as a courthouse runner, going back and forth and filing everything, and then worked myself into a legal assistant job and loved it at that point. I couldn't get enough of it. I ate and breathed the law at that. Did the investigative stuff. I actually got to collect documents, got to talk to insurance companies, got to talk to clients, and really that's where the passion for me wanting to stay in that area of law really began.
So I'm guessing after all that experience of working somewhere and then getting the education, by the time you reached your first law case, you had your first case, it was like a piece of cake, right? It was like pretty solid, knocked it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works at all. I mean, it's just obviously, as far as that role, making that transition from paralegal to lawyer, it is an easier transition that person that doesn't have that paralegal background. I was a paralegal for 13, 14 years before I went to law school. So it was a little bit easier on that, and I did have those fundamental background, understanding of law and the paperwork and everything that goes along with it, but still nothing can compare you for being on the other side of that bench, being there before the court and presenting the case and cross-examinations. The first case I had as a lawyer was what we call a dram shop case. Are you familiar with that term?
No, not at all.
A dram shop is a tavern, it's a bar.
Okay.
If a bar in Oklahoma overserves a patron, that bar may be liable for putting that person intoxicated out on the street.
Right.
That's why bartenders are always trying to limit what you drink or cut you off or kind of keep an eye on you and that sort of thing. I had a nice young lady. She was 19 years of age, and she went to a restaurant and had a bar in that restaurant. They never asked her for her ID. And she had asked for a drink. And they gave her some drinks. They gave her 4 Long Island teas within 45 minutes.
I couldn't even handle that. I could 1.5, and I'm.
So it wasn't too hard of a case. She paid with her debit card, so I had a record of the transactions. In fact, even time-stamped when it was on that, so it was easy to show, hey, look, she drove away and wrecked her car, and unfortunately, she was hurt pretty bad. So I was able to get the case resolved, didn't have to go to trial. The evidence kind of just came in through discovery during the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. But a little bit more of a difficult case, but that's kind of the hardest one to prosecute in Oklahoma.
I bet she was scared to death.
Oh, yeah, just every client that gets into the hot seat, you put them into a deposition, it's like they're like being interrogated with a bright light. Where were you on the night of the 14th? Lies! I was only following orders. And, and people just say the funniest things in deposition. They're just nervous, and I can't answer for them. They'll look at me and like, you got to answer it. I can't answer it for you. That's up to you, And,
all right, well, hang on to that, because when we come back, we're going to take a little break here, and then we'll talk more about some of the cases that you've had throughout your experiences, and some that probably people out there right now have need of help from someone like yourself. So stick right here with us on Tulsa Law Talk.
Hello again, everybody. Alright, so here's a question for thought. What dollar amount of vehicle damage is required by Oklahoma law to report a non-injury accident to DPS? Is it A, $250, B, $300, or C, $500? We'll have the answer right after this.
Over 6,337 people are injured in a car crash each day in the United States, and each crash can affect your day-to-day lives from having nothing to drive to severe bodily injury. At Benedict Law Office, we are here to help you through this tragedy and get your life back on track. For over 25 years, Lloyd Benedict has been successfully handling and resolving personal injury cases. If you can't come to the office, we'll meet you, whether it's at your home, office, or by phone. Look us up on our website or call at 918-477-7000. A car crash changes everything instantly. How you get to work, heal from the injuries to repairing your car. Not to mention how this affects your family members' lives. The Lawyer Lloyd Show is to educate people about what you need to know to best deal with an accident. It's more than just calling the insurance company. It's about understanding the importance of having an attorney to guide you through this crash, but more importantly, knowing that you are not going through this accident alone. Seen every Monday at noon and on Wednesdays 11:30 at night, right here on KWHB TV 47.
Okay, so earlier I'd asked what dollar amount of vehicle damage is required by Oklahoma law to report a non-injury accident to DPS. And the answer is C, $500. If you do not report the accident, you could be facing up to a $2,500 fine or worse. So, unless you don't mind wearing those hard-to-miss 50 Shades of Orange jumpsuits, I'd suggest reporting the accident.
You never know, honey, I could be long gone before you get home.
Hey, Brett. Update me on Parnell.
So, I was monitoring Joe Dozier's Facebook page, and he's yet to post anything about the accident till yesterday. He got his car out of the shop and he wanted to take a pretty picture for everyone to see. And in the comments section, he was bragging that the insurance company believed his version of events, basically implying that he was lying, which we already knew. So I put it off.
Shouldn't he say that the insurance company believed? I mean, wouldn't that be normal for me to be saying, hey, look, they believe me? Like
Yeah,
they should have.
it was the undertones. And remember when you asked me to try to obtain video footage?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so I did call one of the businesses who happens to have a camera in the perfect spot, no obstructions, and it was clear, and I got a video of it, and shows her leaving the intersection, just like anybody else would. The light turns green, he's looking at his phone, and he hits her. So he said that she hesitated as soon as the light turned green, and he had no choice but to ram into the back of her. That's not true. He wasn't even looking. He had no idea what color the light was.
Checkmate.
Yeah, we got
Looks
it.
like your creeping paid off this time.
Yes, well, people will post anything on Facebook these days. Just gotta wait.
They do. Can you do me a favor? Can you go ahead and get that screenshot and the video? Can you go ahead and email it to me? I want to anticipate getting that to the insurance company at some point.
Absolutely, I'll get right on it.
All right. Thank you, girl.
Welcome back to Tulsa Law Talk. Our guest is Lloyd Benedict. He's with the Benedict Law Office. Accidents and things they really that have to do with if you have any legal need in your life can really change your life. And I give this example. Years ago, my brother, he started going to law school because we were kids at a club, had a brand new Trans Am, and he had a bad habit of leaving his wallet in the car whenever we went anywhere. And we were
Trans Am, like Smoking the Bandit.
right, Smoking the Bandit kind of thing, you know. And so we're walking out of the club and we see this car. Hey, that looks like your car. It is my car. And then a few months later, he started seeing all these dings on his credit. And back in those days, you know, they didn't report back to you right away to let you know that somebody, hey, is this really you using your card? And there were credit cards open in his name. People bought cars in his name and all kinds of things. And it took forever for him to clear that up. And that really kind of made him want to go to law school. What about you? Did you have anything like that?
You know, I don't have any kind of motivational stories that was any kind of singular event that brought to me. Mine was really kind of a process. It was kind of really a process of frustration. As I mentioned, as a paralegal for 14 years, I had handled thousands of cases up to that point.
Right.
And became really close with my clients. I knew the network of how things worked. All the adjusters knew me. I had a good reputation. And I knew how to get things done. The problems were identified and solutions were brought into it. So really when I handed the case to the attorney, all I really had to do was take it over and go to the next level of what I couldn't do, which was the practice of law at that point. It got really apparent time and time and time again that all the work and all the things that my clients had been through, I say my clients, it was the attorney's clients, but all the things that we had been through at that point were not going to go anywhere because the attorney didn't have interest to pursue it, wasn't their favorite case, maybe they just were too busy to do things or just lack of interest, and it was just really frustrating to have that. And so it was that frustration of working those cases, getting to that point, and it not going anywhere. And I thought, what do I need these guys for? I'll go to law school, I'll do it, and once I get my license, I'll be able to take it all the way if I need to. So it was really kind of completing that whole process that took me to that point.
That's awesome because you kind of, you look maybe a little bit more for the underdog, the people who really needed the help, because a lot of cases can happen. And yeah, I know I've been in one myself where months went by and all I was really wanting was them to pay the medical bills, and the attorney told me, it's not really worth the time that we invest into it.
Yeah, and there's really no such thing as too small a case. There's no too big a case, no too small a case. A case is a case. It takes just as much effort, really, for me to work on a case that has smaller damages as it does that has bigger damages. In some ways, bigger cases are actually easier. The evidence may speak for itself. So all the experience I have with working smaller cases have led up to the point of just making it easier to handle the bigger cases. A minute ago we talked about what was my first case as a lawyer. As a paralegal, what really got me hooked at that point is I was finally assigned a case when I became a paralegal. It was a sweet old lady. She was on her way to work and she was coming out of her apartments, and they had stair steps made of railroad ties, and she was walking down them. She had her purse in one hand and she had some paperwork in another.
Right.
And she's walking to her car. She lost her footing and fell down these stairs. And everyone's like, hey, here's a junky case. Lloyd, once you work that. And of course the new guy always gets the junk, right? So I got into it and I started looking at it, and at that point I had developed a passion for legal research. So I started looking at case law and that sort of thing and find out fall cases and what was there as far as the facts and what am I seeing, where's the case on this thing. And I learned in that time, Oklahoma City, they followed the Baca Building Code, and Baca Building Code requires commercial property to have certain standards. 2 steps or more on commercial property required a handrail. There was no handrail on these steps.
Okay, wow.
Had there been a handrail, she would have been able to hold on to it and prevent the fall. So I brought that research to the attorney at that point and said, look, I think I've got an angle here. I think I've got something to move. We can actually show they violated the building code by not putting that in there. Sure enough, we used that information and got the case substantially settled. And so I thought, okay, I'm hooked at this point. So I actually can take the law and the facts combined together with a good investigation and get something resolved.
It's kind of like coming up with a game plan and then winning the game, right? Like any team would.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome.
I tell my paralegals that story all the time. I say, there's not a job that you guys do, that I ask you to do, that I haven't done thousands of times. And so it kind of gives me a little bit of advantage.
So are the cases like the vase analogy? Is there like little vases and big vases, or are they all the same size?
Well, they're different sizes, obviously. There's some cases that do go quicker than others. I mean, obviously, if you get some real catastrophic injuries and that sort of thing, and some horrible stories out there, requires a lot different kind of evidence, requires different kind of experts to be brought into it. Not all cases require that, but really the process is still the thinking. It's the investigation, building the case up, having a legal strategy, how you're going to get the case resolved, present it to an insurance company, and if not, go to trial with it.
And that, how did the vase come about? How did you come up with that?
Well, vase, so we'll use vase, but if you think about it, vase and case are just one word away.
Gotcha.
So it made an easy transition.
So it's not vase and cause. It's not, no. So like when we talk about say my brother's situation, why couldn't he just go out and do that all himself? Why is the advantage of having an attorney to find and help you get through these cases on your own?
Well, we kind of talked about that in an episode before, but I'll put it into a different perspective on that. Whatever you do in life, if you just happen to be gifted and be a jack of all trades, you're going to run across this problem at some point, but you can't do everything because you may not have the experience. If I want to go out and run electrical wires in my house and try to do it, I'll probably burn my house down. Run gas pipe, I'll probably burn my house down.
Right.
I kind of stay away from electrical and gas issues. I'll do other stuff, but so there's going to be things that come into life that really require a professional that really knows what they're doing. A legal matter is way too important, and it really does require to have someone with experience to come in there and say, okay, we're going to do this. Because typically what happens, and I'll bring back that vase analogy, and as a legal strategy, I'm building the case, and I'm taking that blob of clay on the potter's wheel, and I'm building that case. If I was doing it myself, I didn't have the experience on that, what I would probably end up with is something that might look like a vase, but it's going to be just like awkward, it's going to be shaped wrong, and I've kind of screwed it up. And then I take up this screwed up vase to the expert artist and say, can you reshape this vase to where it maybe is better? And they'll probably try to do something. Maybe they can kind of paint it differently.
I made one of those for my mom in kindergarten.
You know, I've told clients that too, like that my son made a little box for me out of clay when he was in 3rd grade and stuff. In fact, I still have it in my office. And it's for sentimental purposes, it's great. He did a good job, you know, but as far as commodity-wise, it's more sentimental than it really has any kind of value to it. But if he had, that's the best work he could do at that time. If he would have hired a professional potterer to come in there and build that, it would have had a different product. But so, yeah, as a dad, I'm proud of him. Yeah, great job on that, but, you know, it just doesn't have the same effect of taking that and be able to sell that as a commodity.
And you probably wouldn't be a lawyer. You would have started a manufacturing business with your son, and you guys would, you know, have these boxes that are making tons of money.
That's right. We'd probably an app for it or something like that. Knowing my son, would be a high-tech box.
Well, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to learn more about some of the cases that you've dealt with throughout your career, and Lloyd's going to share with us a little bit about himself still. We're at Tulsa Law Talk.
Do you think the following statement is true or false? It is illegal to yell profanities, make provoking facial expressions, or frightening gestures to a service dog. We'll be back shortly with the answer.
Over 6,337 people are injured in a car crash each day in the United States, and each crash can affect your day-to-day lives from having nothing to drive to severe bodily injury. At Benedict Law Office, we are here to help you through this tragedy and get your life back on track. For over 25 years, Lloyd Benedict has been successfully handling and resolving personal injury cases. If you can't come to the office, we'll meet you, whether it's at your home, office, or by phone. Look us up on our website or call at 918-477-7000. A car crash changes everything instantly. How you get to work, heal from the injuries, to repairing your car. Not to mention how this affects your family members' lives. The Lawyer Lloyd Show is to educate people about what you need to know to best deal with an accident. It's more than just calling the insurance company. It's about understanding the importance of having an attorney to guide you through this crash, but more importantly, knowing that you are not going through this accident alone. Seen every Monday at noon and on Wednesdays 11:30 at night, right here on KWHB TV 47.
Before the break, I asked whether or not you thought it was illegal to yell profanities, make provoking facial expressions, or frightening gestures to a service dog, and the answer is true. According to Oklahoma Statute Title 21, Section 649.3, it is a crime for any person to torment a service dog. If found guilty, you can face punishable charges up to a $1,000 fine and/or incarcerated for up to 1 year in jail.
All right, you're back, and you'll be so happy you did because you don't want to miss a moment of this with Lloyd Benedict. Lloyd from the Benedict Law Office, thank you so much for continuing to hang out with us and sharing your experience with the legal profession.
This is fun, Stevie. This is good stuff.
And we've got to know you a little bit better throughout this episode that we've been spending with you. And I like to ask people this because I always tell this to younger guys when I interview them is that, like, when you're an old man like me, well, I know, I'm trying to make you feel better here. When you're when you're an old man like me, what's the story you're going to be telling from, your little league days? What about you? Like, I can tell mine. This one home run that I hit, I tell that story all the time. But for you, what was it that, you've shared with us some of the ones that were inspirational for you, but were there any of these that are just like fun?
Oh, there's been tons of fun cases. I can write a book on fun cases. As a paralegal and as a lawyer both. The one that quickly comes to mind is it's a classic epic story. This happened when I was working at the firm in Oklahoma City. There was a lady that she was a student there at University of Oklahoma, and they had a tanning booth that she had a membership to.
This is already getting good.
And she was a very attractive woman, and she was just trying to take care of herself, and I think it was during the winter months, and she just wanted to have a tan look.
Right.
So she goes to her tanning booth that she had always gone there. They had redone the tanning booths and changed equipment around and had different set up the way things were.
I saw this episode on Friends, I think.
And so she goes in there and she does her tan. The first time that she had used the tanning booth since it had changed and redecorated. So she's in there, and they've got those little goggle things that you wear that you put on, so I guess you don't burn your retinas out. And so she gets out, and she's fully unclothed, and she gets out, and she's the lights are still on, so she's still got her goggles on. She's kind of feeling around for, I guess, a towel or something like that. And they have two things there. They have a fan switch, and then they have another switch that she, I guess, didn't know about. Well, she hits the other switch. And so then she takes off her goggles and then still looking for the towel. And she realized the other switch was an electronic curtain that completely pulled back the curtain and there was the entire waiting room staring at her.
Hello.
And so, well, it's humiliation, it's embarrassing, and she was completely mortified. And bless her heart, broke down in tears, and what can you do? There she is, and there they are. And I don't know if they applauded, I don't know if they held up cards and scored her, I don't know what, But, in honest, it was a lot different kind of case. You'd be surprised at the different cases I've worked on, but that's just, it's one that's unique.
And is that one that you won?
Yeah, well, I didn't lose that one. You might say I was kind of the naked truth of the case, as we got the thing settled fairly quick.
Well, yeah, I'm going to talk. I love that, and I'll share my home run story with you. But we got to get out of here. It's been great hanging out with you as always. You want to do this again?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you? All right. Well, you heard him. He's going to be right here with us again for Tulsa Law Talk. Lloyd Benedict from the Benedict Law Office, and thanks so much for joining us.
Right. Thanks, Stevie.
My heart is stony and